Okay, so we kind of done, I suppose we've done the invocation prayers. I'll just do Om Jnanatimurandasya Jnananjana Shlakayam Chakshuram Vitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadama Yantadati Swapadamikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutakadikamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shri Guru Sagrajatam Bhagavana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deen Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Nada Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindu Chapatitanam Pamani Vaishnavi Brahmanam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shiva Shadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram. Okay, so seems like you guys been doing chapter 5, which is like you say, Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness. I wanted to ask you also, what is your understanding so far? It looks like we're coming, towards the ending of the chapter. And what is your understanding so far that you've understood in terms of Karma Yoga or action in Krishna consciousness? Sometimes there's a double kind of understanding of Karma Yoga. But I would like to hear, I'm going to make this more reflective listening sort of a class. So I'd like to hear from all of you what your understanding is so far in terms of what you understood with Karma Yoga that you've done in chapter 5. Would anyone like to jump in and share?
So, Prabhuji, I can start first. What we have understood is that we don't have to go up in the mountains or be in a secluded forest or give up everything in life and then go into reading the Bhagavata or the text and chant. We can dovetail all our activities that we are doing right now in a way and still be Krishna conscious. So not to give up the karmas that we are doing right now, but dovetailing it with dovetailing it to Krishna consciousness. So devotional service is the easy gateway. Like Prabhupada has given us a key to the back door by chanting and doing devotional service. For example, I can give you an example. I felt like eating a pizza today. So how do I make that activity transcendental? So make the pizza for Krishna, offer it to Krishna, and then after offering, then partaking it. The karma is still the same. Before I joined this, I could have just made it and eaten it, but now I'm offering it to the Lord. So dovetailing my karma, my activities to Krishna, and then partaking it as prasadam, and that way it's a very easy process. I'm not giving up my karma, but at the same time doing it for Krishna. So far, this is my understanding. But I'm sure in the group there might be other people who want to contribute.
Well, I just wanted to first just thank Kirtika. I wanted to just thank Kirtika for, very nicely, succinctly explaining. So basically, you said what you understood so far is that basically karma yoga means dovetailing whatever we do, all our karma, all of our actions in a way that it's Krishnaized. That's what I get from what you're saying, Samriya. And sounds like someone else wanted to say something.
Hare Krishna. Did anybody else want to say something? Kindly unmute and say.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Actually, we learn about 9 kids. Then control of forces, material forces like a talk, anger, mind, stomach, genitals, tongue. So we learn about this one. These are the basic for the devotee. So we learn about that one also.
Right. So it's a lot of controlling senses. So in one sense, this one is basically talking about Astanga Yoga. This particular verse is talking a lot about Astanga Yoga. And there are actually 4 types of original, what you call bona fide yoga systems. Does anyone know what are the 4 type of original, origin of yoga systems that we have, the bona fide 4 types of systems in the Vedas?
So Ashtang Yoga is one because we've just mentioned.
Yes.
Karma Yoga.
Yes.
Hatha yoga.
Hatha Yoga.
Hatha comes under, yeah, that will come under the Ashtanga. It's
Bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga, Mataji.
yes, that's correct. And the last one is Jnana Yoga. So there are 4 types of origin of yogas. That is, bona fide yoga system, which is called Karma Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. Now, a lot of these days, especially here in California, you have lots of people, all sorts of people who are creating all kinds of yoga, like you said, different parts of like Hatha Yoga and whatever, they use the word yoga very simply. I mean, nowadays you even have dog yoga here and wine yoga here and chocolate yoga here. I know you're looking a little surprised. Kritika is going, yeah, but that's true. That's crazy California in America, right? So it's really important that people understand or know what are the 4 bona fide yoga systems, authentic yoga systems according to the Vedic scriptures. Because here people becomes a very commercial thing. It becomes like they make into a business thing and, they'll use the Bhagavad Gita, they'll pick up bits and bobs here and they'll do everything and they make a business out of it. Give us a bit of money and you can bring your dog and they call it dog yoga. So all sorts of crazy things happen, like that. So it is really important because in one sense we can read this Bhagavad Gita and we can think, why is Prabhupada talking about, all this Sankhya Yoga and, which Sankhya is like Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga and all of this, so be wondering why is, Prabhupada giving us all that information. Again, I think that information, like you said, it's really important that we understand so that we can differentiate. Just like in the Bhagavatam, it begins with giving us all the different various kinds of incarnations of Krishna. And Prabhupada explains there, why do we need to know, about all these different incarnations? Because we are happy focusing on, Krishna, Radha Krishna and things, as Lord Chaitanya. So, yeah, so why? Because again, having that knowledge is really important because someone comes up to you and, tries to preach to you, influence you in different ways. You got to know if someone comes and say, oh, I'm an avatar, so and so, in India, people just fall down and go bad on the feet of everybody. Recently, we saw a, um, a little YouTube thing somebody sent me of a picture of someone in India worshiping Trump, President Trump in America, like, as if he's God, he's doing RT, and he died of heart attack when Trump had COVID-19, because he was so attached to him and he made this big murti of Trump, in his house. He spent like millions of dollars doing that. And, it's just like, that's why it's so important to have proper knowledge coming from the proper source, and here actually is my husband. He has made can you guys, I don't know if you can see, he's
Yes,
made a
Mataji, we can see
chart.
it.
Can you see?
Yes, Mataji, we can see
Yeah.
it.
Okay, so these are 4 types of original yoga system, and my husband basically makes lots of charts like that, he's got like a set of pack of 9 charts. He has a whole set website, jagannath.com, where he does all these devotional products and all these kind of charts. And so here is like about the 3 conditional systems of modes of nature. And yeah, and then we have like the 3 aspects of the absolute truth, if you can see. Yeah, I think something like that. Yeah. Three aspects of the absolute truth. So all this information is really important. Now, karma yoga can be seen in two ways. I think one way karma yoga, sometimes people say it is like, whatever you do, you do, you renounce the results for it, that means you don't get the results. And the other one, what we call karma yoga, is also dovetailing, like what Kirtika explained, dovetail everything in Krishna's service. Like you gave the nice example of, prasadam. We want to eat, we still, like you said, you have to have a basically all these yoga systems, a really important part of all of them is controlling your senses, right? Because if your mind and senses are not controlled, it's very difficult to practice any spiritual discipline. uh, Even the Buddhist people are very strict, like they have all those different practices, and even though they don't even have like you said, some sort of form of like something like worship of God. They don't even quite believe in God. They believe in just a null and void end. But even they, disciplining is really important. So Prabhupada is talking about all this different system, Ashtanga yoga system. He said yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi, and where you really have to sit down for. In previous ages, people could sit for hundreds of years, because their lifespan was much longer, and do all these poses of yoga. These days, I mean, if you just shut your eyes, like you said, Prabhupada say, simply, meditating, close your eyes and try to focus on something. It's simply sleeping. You just fall asleep, because in Kali Yuga, we just don't have that. We don't have that power of, tolerance. And so yeah, this is like, and then Prabhupada again explains that for Krishna consciousness, like Ritika explained, why it's so easy. I mean, you get examples of great yogis, like Sobari Muni and Vishwamitra and things like that, and they still fall down from their spiritual path. Like Sobari Muni was doing great austerity of like all this ashana and everything, and he was doing it underwater. He was doing it in the Yamuna, like a really sacred place like the Yamuna under the water. And even that, when he saw a couple of fishes, mating, it disturbed his mind and he couldn't continue his yoga practices. He had to come out and, get married and everything, and then fall into the whole, web. So, yeah, and that's why Prabhupada always say the most important thing is like, if you artificially force you to shut your senses down, we all need to have enough what you call basic sensory needs, like you say, because we've got this body, so there has to be like basic what you call eating, sleeping, mating, defending. It's like some basic need is there. It's just like you don't indulge in that. That's the point. Like you say, and how do we control these senses? Like you said, I think in chapter 2 they talk about the 5 horses. It says like when you're riding the horses, if you pull the horses too tight, you know then you're choking them and they buck. But if you let it too loose, they go astray everywhere. Then you can control that. So the same thing like this with our mind and senses. Like if we pull it too hard, like just absolutely nothing, then we can get, like you said, you can buck, and then you just, again, it's a way you crack down, because you're being artificially not able to. And if you just let loose your senses, then you just have no control. Then you're just taken over by your senses, dragged everywhere here and there by your senses. So it's important in terms of finding a proper balance. We need the senses to like keep our soul and body together. you know and an important part of that is also recognizing this body can be used, like you said, it's really important. This body is a temple of the Lord. Krishna resides in this body, and we use this body in Krishna's service. So using it in Krishna's service means like when you get a message in your body, You're being conscious. Prabhupada say you have to be conscious before you can be Krishna conscious, right? If you don't even realize I'm being obnoxious, or I'm being right now greedy, I'm being taken over by greed, or I'm being taken over by anger, I'm being taken over by envy, I'm being intolerant, I'm being impatient. If you don't notice these things in your body, then, like you said, then it will be difficult to control them. So we have to begin with being aware, saying like, oh, I can feel that I'm feeling frustrated right now. I'm feeling this tightening of my muscles in my stomach. I'm feeling this heat building up in my body. Okay, what does that mean? What does that show? You can use that as an example, like, okay, that's a cue that, I'm feeling angry. That's a cue I'm frustrated, or that's a cue, maybe I'm feeling some envy. What's happening? Go under that layer. What's going on for me? Why am I feeling like that? And use all this body in a way for to enhance our higher realization, by use the body, being conscious of it, to be like we have the modes of nature too, to see, okay, I can see I'm feeling like I'm in the mode of and right now I'm in the lower mode of like you said, passion, or I'm feeling the mode of ignorance, like over here, like we have, mode of passion or ignorance. I'm in the mode of, Prabhupada explains in chapter 14 of Bhagavad Gita how you can use a thorn to remove another thorn, so you can use your material body to remove your material entanglement. So in that way, and that's what we do. Also, like you said, for us in devotional service, we don't have to do these really austere, like you say, Ashtanga yoga processes that they did in the previous ages. In Kali Yuga, they said it doesn't even work. We don't even have that ability. And Prabhupada gives the example, like instead of touching your nose like that straight away, if you want to go around all the way and touch your nose like that, that's what these processes is. If you can touch your nose like that, why go around and do it the difficult way? If you can attain self-realization through the process of bhakti or devotional service, which is very sweet, like we explained earlier, you don't really even have to, you just utilize everything in Krishna's service, and that's called, action in Krishna consciousness. Because we can do the same things, most of the things we can do. I mean, we also have, like in this process, they're talking here about Ashtanga Yoga. There's yama and niyama, which is do's, and there's don'ts and everything in those processes. But same thing, we also have yama and niyama in Krishna consciousness in one sense, but our yama and niyama is like, what our dues. We chant 16 rounds every day. We read Krishna's, pastimes, books like that. That's what we do. And what is our don'ts? Like we follow the 4 regulative principles, right? The niyama. We don't, eat meat, intoxicate, or engage in, illicit sex or gambling. So that's niyama. That's how, we do have the do's and don'ts, but it's nothing so severe. Like, we have like the basic things, because Krishna consciousness, we just follow some basic guidelines. I mean, there was one person who came up to Prabhupada once and said, Prabhupada, he says, I'm now, I've given up eating meat, and I don't intoxicate or hang around with opposite sex anymore, and gamble or anything like that. I've become a devotee. And Prabhupada looked at him and says, no, he says, actually, now you've become a human. Right? He said, that's just the beginning stage. You just become a cultured human. You just become a civilized, cultured human. And a civilized, cultured human, like you say, it's demoniac, it's barbaric to even eat meat. But this, to engage in killing other living beings for our own senses and things like that. So these are basic principles to just be a cultured, civilized human. So we got to begin with that. So Krishna consciousness begins with that. And then other than that, we just engage everything, we do everything else, but we just do it for the pleasure of Krishna. We clean our house because it's Krishna's temple. Our food we offer to Krishna, and we sanctify it and things like that. And just by so doing, and by chanting Hare Krishna, because people go through, like you say, these are severe processes. I think all these yogic processes, to talk here Ashtanga, sometimes like you hear about the yogis in the Himalayas sitting in in frozen water and bathing in ice cold water in the middle of winters in the Himalayas, or in the middle of a big heat they're going into the fire. And I mean, they are kind of, or they poke some all kind of needles into their body. I come from Malaysia, where they do a festival called Taipusam once every year in Batu Caves, and they have all these people, they put needles to their face, to their head, your nose, and all, and these are all different kind of so-called religious, rites. But Krishna consciousness doesn't require you like that. In fact, they said to abuse your body, which is, Krishna's, like you say, gift, is also offensive, because this body, we devotees relate, see everything in connection to Krishna. You can see everything in connection to Maya, or you could see everything in connection to Krishna. Prabhupada would say it's Maya to see everything as Maya, because in your Maya consciousness. So devotees, they Krishnaize everything, they see everything, as Krishna. So even this body, we see it as a temple of the Lord. So we treat it like that, and everybody else's body, we treat it like that, in that way. And how does a devotee, what is the Bhakti Yoga principles? How do we control our senses? We don't do this pratyahara, like all these deep breathing exercises for hours and hours, or asana, sitting down. Now, the Krishna explains a little bit more about the asana process in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, I think, verses 11 to 14. And then in Srimad Bhagavatam, I think Canto 4, chapter 23, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport again how pranayam is practiced, or the breath thing, So there are all these different processes which are very tedious, if you read that, and it's not even practical in Kali Yuga. We don't have that ability. But Prabhupada explains, we do that. He says, for us, actually, we are doing pranayam just by singing and dancing. So when we sing and dance in kirtan, our breathing, the way we breathe, and breath, air coming in, all this good and spiritual transcendental energy and everything, it's already, all these processes are already included, just like these. Also controlling your senses is naturally included in Bhakti Yoga. And how do we control our senses? Prabhupada said Bhakti Yoga, the way is param drishtva nivartante, which means through a higher taste. When you naturally have taste for Krishna consciousness, for devotional service, you've developed a personal attachment to devotees, to Krishna, to the process of a bhakti. You naturally have a higher taste, and you lose your taste for doing things for your sense gratification of a lower mode. You naturally lose that. And because it's like it's just like as children, maybe we really like all those lollipops and everything like that, this red, green, orange. And now you ask me to look at one of those lollipop, is just a bunch of sugar. And I can see Kritika's pulling her face. It's just a bit of sugar and some artificial color. And I was like, no way, I wouldn't want that. Why? We've grown up. Right? The lollipop is the same. We've grown up now. We mature. We want to eat instead Krishna's rasgulla and rasmalai and Mahaprasad gulab jamun. And it's because we lost our taste for that. So Bhakti Yoga is a process like that. It's a very natural process. When you have something higher, when you have something tastier, when you have higher taste, you naturally don't want the other things. So it's not like a severe austerity in that sense, because you just lose your taste. And you see great devotees who are, you see like Haridas Thakur and everything, I mean, they're just like so blissed. Or Gokishore Das Babaji Maharaj is sitting, in the middle of forest somewhere, and he's just so blissful. He doesn't need anything else. He just live on roots and fruits, and they're happy, with some basic things, and they don't need it, simply naturally, because everything is, like you said, they naturally have a higher taste, and they don't have a taste for the other things. Anyway, so I think, yeah, there's been some time issue. I think I should end here to give people a chance for any question and answers. So, anything, mm, the comments or anything else they want to share.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you very much
Thank you.
for your nectar today. I really liked using the thorn to take out the thorn energy, because that using this material body to remove the material desires. So I think that really fits into, because explaining dovetailing is difficult when we are trying to explain it to non-devotee. But I think this example that you gave us, removing a thorn with a thorn, I think I will be using it if it is not copyrighted.
Good. No, nothing's copyrighted here. That's all in the Prabhupada's purports and explanations. Yeah.
So I'm
Yes.
opening up this session for question and answer. If there's any questions, kindly unmute or write in the chat. And while you are thinking about it, maybe I can start with the questions. So, Mataji, in the case of Saurabha Muni, the story was that because he gave the curse to Garuda, that's why Krishna he had an affection for fishes, as he was meditating under the water. So it was Krishna's will, or Krishna's doing, that he got attracted to the two mating fish, and therefore he came out. And this, so sometimes when we are in the bhakti yoga, maybe is it possible that Krishna would do the same to us if we become egoistic, or if we become angry, or we blasphemize his devotee? Because Garuda was Krishna's devotee, and therefore because the Saurabh Muni gave a curse, that's why Krishna protected the devotee. I mean, Krishna doesn't like his devotees to be offended. That really hurts him. So I guess, is that the story behind it?
Yes, yes, that is the story. And you'll see the stories behind everything, like even the stories behind, the 8 children were killed by, Vasudeva and Devaki's in the prison house. And you think, oh, how could that Krishna let that happen? Why did Devaki as a devotee have to go through that? I mean, she's such a special devotee to be a mother and the parents of Krishna. And why did they have to go through that? Now like there's a whole story. And then Valmiki, how in his previous life, who he was, and like a thief and rogue. And so every story, I mean, if you really go behind, I mean, that's the beauty of our teachings, because um, it goes so deep. We have all these, like certain faiths, they don't have this believe in the reincarnation, and so they can explain that for us. Okay, something happened in the previous life, maybe in this life we can understand. When we go through different sufferings or different things, it's like, what did I have to do to get through, have to suffer like that, or have this come into my life? And it seems like in this life we didn't really do anything particular, to suffer in a particular way, especially if we're trying to be devotees and we're trying to follow the path of bhakti and things like that. So yes, you're right. I suppose Krishna is always whatever's best for us to purify us, so it might not necessarily, karma is very complicated. It's not necessarily like, you did something A plus B and then your result will be C or whatever like that. Because karma is like, if Krishna's, especially for devotees, those who have given their lives to Krishna, have taken initiation, then you don't fall under the mantra Rudrani Mayaya, which means the 3 modes of material nature. You just, then Krishna personally, that's like karma, action and reaction. When you do this, you get this, you do this, you get that. But when person surrenders into Krishna and takes initiation, then Krishna personally takes your life. And then if he sees we have any of these like qualities, weaknesses like lust, greed, envy, anger, pride, ego, all this sort of things, then he'll do whatever he needs to do to help us get purified of that. Like, it's been the Kartik month last month. We've all been singing this beautiful Damodarastakam song, and then that's his famous verse amongst that, about the 2 sons of the demigods, Kuvera, demigod Kuvera, Nalapura, Manigriva, how they, because they were so proud when Narad Muni came, the pride, and they got to, so this is what they got. So, yes, Krishna is constantly purifying us, in different ways. And, but the the thing is, if you practice nicely the process of devotional service, like especially you do chant good rounds, you read, chant nicely, naturally, all it's like you don't have to suffer hard to, and go through all these difficult things to give up your pride and your anger and your, lust and things, because just by chanting Hare Krishna properly, all these vices are automatically taken care of. So there's such a simple, beautiful, sublime way we can take advantage of in Krishna consciousness. And it's so easy, especially with Lord Chaitanya. He's come and made it so easy for us. It's almost like they say he's broken the storehouse of love of God. Something that was impossible in other yugas. He's just given to us most fallen people of Kali Yuga freely. So just by chanting, I mean, my one of my professors in my coaching, he does a PhD dissertation about, because he does social, what, like you said, he's a PhD in social work and things like that. So people who suffer from stress, anxiety, depression, and all that, he did a test for his dissertation, how just by chanting Hare Krishna, all that's taken care of. People who chant Hare Krishna has much lower, like you say, anxiety and stress and everything like that. And I know one of the devotees here, you know he said he came from a very difficult, childhood background, where his parents were so abusive, and he was very angry all his life. He grew up with that anger towards his parents, and that came out in different ways in his life. It showed up, whatever, intoxication, this one, that one, everything was so, it was so destructive, because that anger towards his parents for the way they brought him up. And then he became a devotee and he started chanting Hare Krishna. And he chanted so nicely. And all of a sudden, he said, one day, he said, it's just like this whole anger he felt like just dissolved. He just didn't feel any more anger towards the parents that he was carrying with him throughout his whole life. Imagine carrying that weight of that anger, that hatred, that envy in your body. It's horrible. And he said it just to chanting, he just felt so light, and he connected to something that was so beautiful. And today he's one of the greatest, like, kirtan devotees. He's so much propagating kirtan all the time. He's going out everywhere he go and he's telling everybody, chant Hare Krishna, this will solve all your problems. And he says it with such conviction because he's actually experienced it. And then after this, he became a devotee. One day he went to the house and he knocked on the door of the parents. He just wanted to say to them, basically, hey, they wouldn't open the door. They were so afraid. They thought he's going to come to like beat them or something like that. They were so afraid. But because usually he was so angry, and that day he said, dad, mom, please just let me in. I just want to give you a hug, and I want to say it's all behind, and I'm not feeling anything anymore, and I know whatever happened is probably my karma and your karma. And and it was just like so sweet, and they couldn't believe their eyes. They all cried with tears, and they hugged each other and just like put everything. And that all happened just simply through chanting Hare Krishna. It's so beautiful, it's so sublime, it's so simple. And if you really serious take that to our heart, just chant, chant, chant. And Prabhupada saying, be happy and chant with full concentration without any offenses, without committing, then absolutely nothing is impossible. Nothing is impossible. So we've got this such a powerful, like you said, practice that Prabhupada, Lord Chaitanya has given us. And we just need to take advantage of that, and all our problems will be solved. Because like you say, we won't feel that. We'll be above them. We won't be affected. Like, you look at Haridas Thakur, how he was beaten. He didn't even feel it. Of course, Lord Chaitanya was taking the whips, but that's what I mean. Like, Krishna's, always covering our back if we just fully surrender unto him, and take shelter of this process of bhakti and chanting that he's given us.
Thank you, Mataji, for that elaborate explanation. Is there any other question? Kindly unmute or raise your hand and I can ask you to ask your questions. Okay, Mataji, I have another question. I've been asked if, so tea and coffee is like intoxication and we are not supposed to be drinking tea and coffee. But can we drink tea or coffee so that we can stay awake and do our rounds? Or at least for aspiring devotees who have just started, can they, after taking that, they can stay awake and do their rounds? Is that is that okay?
Interesting question. Okay, so you're talking about people who are new, who like haven't taken initiation or haven't taken the vows, maybe?
Yes.
Right, right. Yeah, okay, okay. So once you've taken the vows, it's a different thing. But if you haven't taken the vows, then, like I said, for me, I would say, first of all, I mean, gosh, somebody, if they're really pushing themselves, if they have to come to such a point that they had to take tea or coffee to keep awake, that means their life must be very stressful or busy, to be able to do that. Like you said, again, time, place, circumstances, principle. Uh, Again, I think it's really, I would go back to the example I gave in terms of, if you pull too hard, the horses will buck, and if you let go too loose, they will be going astray. So the same thing with us, I think each person, it's very difficult to make a general, I mean, like that. I usually do counseling or coaching. I speak to a person one-to-one, and, then I see all these circumstances, and then we see what is the right situation. But like you said, it's about balancing again, ultimately, like what would be the better thing for you. Is it better to do maybe a few lesser rounds and have better quality, without taking the tea or coffee? Or is it better for your Krishna consciousness, like you feel more spiritually lively if you took tea or coffee and it helped you, do some really good rounds and you feel better? So which thing, ultimately the most important thing is like whatever's favorable to your Krishna consciousness we take, and whatever's not so favorable to our Krishna consciousness we leave behind. So you got to see which is more favorable to your Krishna consciousness. And always just check that with what you call Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Because some people the mind can just give them different reasons that this is better for my Krishna consciousness, but it may not be. So double check with Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, that way. But it's a tricky one, because you got to decide what would be really helpful for you. If I don't know all the circumstances, I might just say, no, you don't need to take tea or coffee, but I don't know your whole circumstances and things like that. So I won't give a black and white answer to that. But like you said, it's about really what's going to be, more helpful. So sometimes it may be better to do less rounds, but good quality rounds, and not have to take tea and coffee. And then again, if taking tea and coffee and you're doing good rounds make you much more enlivened and happy, then, that might be the solution.
Thank you, Mataji, for that clarification. Any question? Any other question from the group? Just on the light note, what is chocolate yoga?
Yes, it's interesting. Yeah, they did like wine yoga. Whilst they're doing yoga, they take a little wine, and then whilst they're doing like dog yoga, they bring their dogs in there, and the dogs get to sit with them. They do little exercise, and it becomes dog yoga. Chocolate yoga, basically, take chocolate. Whilst you're doing some hatha yoga or exercise, basically different positions that you go into. So like you said, yeah, chocolate has a bit of intoxication effect down there, although very small, but for people. So yeah, that's what it is. It's so much speculation. It's such a joke nowadays. That's why so important to read Prabhupada's books, and where he really explains everything to us, because some of us, most of us, come from Indian backgrounds, like even me, brought up, in the Hindu family and everything, one sense. But when if I ask my parents exactly why did we do what we do and what, they'll just say, oh, every time it's been done, and you just follow. But Prabhupada explained everything to us really nicely. Everything, why we do what we do and what the explanation is and everything. So like you say, we need to understand these things properly so we don't get cheated, because it's a world of the cheated and the cheaters. So all these different kind of yogas and things like that to make money is just like you said. People want to be cheated. They want something cheap. They get that, and other people want to make some money, cheap money, and they cheat these people for that. So yeah, that's what it is.
Thank you, Mataji. There is a question on the chat which I'll read out for you, and this is from Avinash Lakhani Prabhuji, who has joined us from London. And his question is, one of the offenses when chanting, our mind wavers a lot and can create offense. How big is this offense? So
Yeah, like you said, in one sense, after, what they say, to be inattentive, whilst chanting, it doesn't exactly comes as under one of the 10 offenses, but it says, it's because if you're inattentive, then it's easy to commit any of those one offenses. The inattentive thing falls in all the parts, because once you're inattentive, you can commit any of those offenses. So it's being attentive is a really important part. But like you say, in terms of our mind going off, in another sense, this is Kali Yuga. It is to be expected. Our mind is going to do that. Even Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita is telling Krishna, you're asking me to control my mind. It's like controlling the wind. And Arjuna, he's like such a great personality and associate of Krishna in that particular age, 5,000 years ago, when people were much more, he was no ordinary person, but he's saying that because he knows in future, we Kali Yuga people gonna, will have great difficulty. So in one sense, that is like, to be expected. The mind is going to keep going. But we have to keep bringing the mind back, and Krishna answers Arjuna there. He says, by constant practice, keep pulling your mind back, to Krishna, to the holy name, to that sound vibration, and the more and the more and the more you keep doing that, again, like what I said earlier, it's about being conscious, being aware. So you aware every time your mind's going off, pull it back, pull it back, pull it back, pull it back. And the more you practice that, the lesser and the lesser and the lesser the mind will go up. And at one point, you will be really enjoying or really relishing the holy name, that you will be absorbed in it. Prabhupada talked about one-pointed focus, and that's where we can talk about this Stanga or whatever. One of our devotees is a Prabhupada disciple. He speaks about, focusing on that, like, he said, one-pointed attention is almost like those people who do the third eye, the other people who meditate, they focus on their third eye sort of a thing. So it's like that. You can use that. I like to sit down with, there's a big poster in my house with the holy name written on it, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Big, beautiful writing. And I like to sit down in front of that and chant. It really helps me, like in terms of I'm looking at the holy name, my eyes is looking, my tongue is vibrating, my ears is, so that really helps, like for me. So it's actually can be quite simple in one sense. Or do you have Prabhupada say, just hear and chant, just hear and chant. And for me, I added that scene, see, hear, and chant, and then so your mind has to be naturally focused, because you're seeing the holy name, you're hearing the holy name, you're chanting the holy name, the mind is going to be going towards that. So how big an offense is that, the question? Like you say, everything starts from a distracted mind, so, but again, it's not really one of the 10 offenses as such, but it's something we have to be really conscious about. That's all I can say about that so far. I hope that's okay.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji, for that. We have some newcomers as well. Mansi Ganga Mataji, would you like to thank them for coming?
Yes, Manasi. Manasi is here. I don't see her.
Yes, she is here.
Oh.
Okay, maybe she's having some challenges. Okay, there
not
she
exactly.
is. Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't check the people myself, so I wouldn't know.
There's-
Brajrani, I'm there with Mandakini Mataji. She's in a blue sari and I'm in a white sari. Photo
Oh,
profile.
Hare Krishna. Dandavats pranams to all of you, both of you. She's there in
Yeah, and-
Africa?
Oh, Mandakini, no, she came here last year.
Right.
She was here last year. The
I
photo
see,
is
I see.
from that time. She's in Paris right now.
Oh, I see.
Kritika, I'm not too sure, so please go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
I know, sorry. The Eldred group is here, but they have so much of background, I can't make out who's who in the Eldred group anyway. And then I saw, I think, Ekanath from Kampala. And I don't know about the Vishaka, is she the Nairobi
She's
Vishaka?
from London. She's from London.
Oh,
But
okay, see?
Pramila Richke and Nimita is, I think, from. Okay. Anyway, if they're
They're
not
both.
from
They're
Nairobi,
both.
they're from the
They're both.
London.
They're both from
Sorry?
London.
They are both
Oh,
from London. So thank you very
yeah.
much for joining this room. We really appreciate your association and your presence. And feel free to join this group. We do it at the same time every day, same link at 5 o'clock. And we have very exciting speakers. Like today, we had Brajrani Mataji. So thank you for joining today.
Yeah, we
So
had
thank
Urmila
you.
Mataji as well joined us.
thank you very
Is
much,
it,
Mataji, for joining. Thank you so much.
is it every day? Hare Krishna, is it every day?
Yes, every day at 5 o'clock London time.
Oh, thank you very much.
And we do one text every day. So tomorrow it will be the next text, which will be text 29, chapter
Well,
5.
that's an exciting text.
Okay, thank you. I will now hand over to Path Prabhuji. Path Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Mataji, for your precious time and giving this one enlightenment about the yoga and how it's supposed to be go to the Krishna consciousness. And you are giving very example like the Vishwamitra Muni, Shobhari Muni, how it is very difficult to artificially control our mind instead of we are naturally, our source is like that. Naturally, we are the servant of Krishna. If you are engaged our senses, mind in Krishna consciousness, it is better. And we have no any artificial efforts doing something to control. And at the last moment, we will be failed. So thank you very much, Mataji, for your time and your enlightenment. We are so grateful to you, and hope all people are engaged. Join here. They are enjoying this text. Maybe something background noise. We cannot hear the voice proper. Maybe some challenge in the audio. Next time we will see what is the problem. Maybe our side problem or that side. Still, it is very nice. And on behalf of ISKCON Eldoret, I grateful to you, our sincere obliged to you, and also I thanks to all the devotees across the world. They are joining this group. Like already Pritika Mataji announced, every day we are doing the text, one text every day. So if anybody wants, they can join and giving a reflection and your realization and your comments. So it is helpful to us also. Thank you very much. So now I request all the devotees, please unmute yourself, and for a glorification of our Grace Brajrani Mataji will chant Hare Krishna mantra once. Please join with us. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vancha kalpa trubhyasya vipa sindhubhya Pitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everybody, for giving me this opportunity of service. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Jai.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank you.
Sorry, Mataji, for the initial mess up that we had.
Oh, you know what I say? This is a material world. It's just my fault too. I mean, today the timing apparently because the clocks changed here a few weeks ago.
Yes.
So again, there was that issue too. Anyway, we made it. We did it.
We made it after 2 weeks.
Right.
So
Thank you.
Maybe
Thank you.
next Wednesday, but I'll touch base with you over the weekend to see if you have time.
Sure, sure, we'll do that. And yeah, if anybody's interested in any of those charts or anything, let me know too. We can.
Is
take
it
from there.
possible for you to send the picture on the WhatsApp and then I can put it on so people can?
Okay, we'll do that.
Yeah.
I'll do that. Yeah.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mataji. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. All right. Should we go?
Hare Krishna. Can I end the session?